Bienvenidos, Ushamdi, and welcome to this HUD 8 networking tutorial on parsing JSON data using the Python programming language. In part 4 of this multi-part tutorial series, we're going to be going even deeper into the JSON data by taking a look at the JSON objects and some additional JSON arrays that are going to provide us with turn-by-turn directions. Now, in this video, what we're going to be learning and adding to the program that we've been working on through the previous 3 videos is we're using MapQuest, and it's great that we know the miles, and it's great that we know the amount of fuel that would need to be used, but we need turn-by-turn directions. And so we're going to be adding that information, that Python logic, into our program to produce a series of turn-by-turn directions for any set of locations that we enter in. All right, well, let's take a look at our program as it stands right now after the first 3 modules. Let's go ahead and run it and make sure that everything is still functioning as it should be. I'll go ahead and say Santa Rosa, California, and we're going to go to San Francisco. There is all that JSON data. Again, very difficult to read on the CLI. We've got our URL. You can see we've still got the status information coming back. Here is the total number of miles that will be traveled, and here is the total amount of fuel that's going to be used. So let's go ahead and quit out. Now, remember, we're using MapQuest, and it's, again, great that we've got the mileage and the fuel, but what we really want are those turn-by-turn directions that are hidden inside JSON data that we're looking at right here. And again, this is where the value of the JSON view Google Chrome plugin becomes invaluable. So we've already seen the route JSON object. Remember, in JSON context, when we see the curly braces, we're talking about a JSON object. When we see the brackets in JSON, we're looking at a JSON array. However, how Python is going to be looking at this is it's going to be looking at the route dictionary, right? Or a dictionary that has a key value pair, the key being route. And route has a dictionary. Now, in this dictionary, we also have this little key value pair called legs. So legs is the key, and the value appears to be a list. And what is it a list of? It's a list that initially is simply a dictionary, right? You can see right here, we've got a dictionary that is the element, the first element, element 0 or index 0, that is in the legs JSON array, or what Python's going to be looking at as a list. So the first element is this dictionary. Now, we're going to go down one more level. We're looking at the first element of the Python list, and the key is legs, the value is this list, and the first element is a dictionary. And in that dictionary, we have another key value pair. And what is the key? The key is maneuvers. In other words, here are the turn-by-turn directions that we're going to be interested in here. And in fact, if I were to collapse all of those in, so you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, looks like about 10 maneuvers that we would need to make. So let's expand that first maneuver. Again, maneuver is the key, the value is a list, and what are each of these elements in this list? They're simply dictionaries. Right? And so again, let's take a step back and let's walk through this one more time. There's a lot going on here, right? And you can see it kind of escalated a little quickly. So we've got the key value pair. We're dealing with a dictionary. And in the dictionary, the first key value pair is the key of route, and then it's got this dictionary. And when we look in this dictionary, you can see down here, there's another key value pair, right? We're just basically embedding another key value pair in the dictionary, and it's a key of legs, and the value is this list. Well, what is in that list? Well, this list, the first element, index 0, remember, lists are ordered, numerically ordered. And so what do we have? We have index 0. And if we come down here, part of the dictionary that makes up the first element in the list referenced by the key legs is maneuvers. And so maneuvers references another list. The key maneuvers is referencing this other list. And what is in this list? Well, it's nothing more, and it brings us right back to where we were at. It's simply a series of dictionaries. So there's the first one, and that's the first maneuver. Here's the second one, and it's the second maneuver. It tells you how long, it tells you the direction that you're going to be going, right? And you can see here, index, where's my index value? Index 1. If I come down here, index 2. So each element in the maneuvers list, or the JSON maneuvers array, is nothing more than a dictionary. And in those dictionaries, we have other key value pairs that we can then exploit or parse or rip out of this JSON data in order to get the information we're looking for. So let's scoot back up here all the way to the top. Now let's get onto the CLI and let's add in the functionality that we're going to want to add to our program here. And so where are we at right now? Okay, we're down here. Let's vi directions.py. We'll go all the way to the bottom. Now, we're going to do this right here. We're going to jump right in here. Because if the return status is 0, that is where we would want to be printing out the turn-by-turn directions. I wouldn't put the turn-by-turn directions outside of this if statement, because if the return status is not 0, we're not getting those turn-by-turn directions. We're going to get an error message. So how do we do this? And again, I love this part because here's where we take sort of the abstract concept of a for loop, where we're going to go through each and every maneuver. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're just looping through each of those maneuvers that we just saw right here under legs. So here's the first maneuver. Here's the second maneuver, and it's just, again, it's just a dictionary. Here's the third maneuver. Here's the fourth maneuver, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth, the 10th. And so you get the idea. We're going to loop through each of those maneuvers, but I've got to get us down to the maneuvers in order to access the information inside each of these little dictionaries that make up the maneuvers Python list, or in a JSON context, the JSON array. All right. So let's make that happen. So it's simply going to be a for loop. Now, what comes next is arbitrary. I can use any name. I could say for turns, or for turn, or for this, right? Again, it's arbitrary, but we want it to be meaningful. So I'm going to say for turn, right? Because we're going to go for each turn in JSON underscore response. And let's make sure we get that right. Yeah, JSON underscore response. Now, remember, when I reference this JSON response, I'm referencing all of that JSON data. In other words, all of this, right? So I'm referencing the variable that's holding all of this JSON data. And let's get back down here to the bottom. So, and I don't like this here. I want to put a line in there for right now. So for turn in JSON response. In other words, I'm referencing all of the JSON data. Well, now it's just simply a matter of walking down the JSON objects, which are those dictionaries, and then the JSON array, which are the Python lists, to get to the information we want. So we start at the top level by referencing route, right? And that makes sense. We've done this before when we were doing the info, right? Info status code, and then info copyright, and then text, right? We just continue to work our way down. Here it's just route, and then I want the distance. And then it's route and the amount of fuel used. So I'm starting by accessing the elements in the dictionary by key value pair names. So the first is going to be route. Well, what's going to be next? Well, we saw that it would be legs would be next. Now, here's where we're going to pause for a second, because remember, legs was the key, but what is the value? Is the value a dictionary? No, the value is an array, a JSON array, a Python list. And it's only got this index 0, which is what we want to reference, right? We want to reference the first element in the list, which is the dictionary that contains all the maneuvers. Okay? So again, we list the key route. And then under route, what do I want? I want the key legs. Legs is a list, and I want the first element in that list. Remember, zero-based counting in Python. So I want the first element out of that legs list, which is the dictionary that then contains what? All of the maneuvers, maneuvers, and I'm pretty sure that's correct. So we want all of the maneuvers. So for each of the turns that are going to be listed here in the maneuvers, what do we want to do? Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3. Well, we're going to be printing that information out. Right? So I'm going to say print turn, and then and here's the information I want. So again, let's take a step back. So we're all the way down to maneuvers. Now for each of the little dictionaries that make up the maneuvers, starting with index 0 and then index 1, right? For each of these little dictionaries that make up the maneuvers list, what information do I want here? Well, let's get the narrative, right? Because again, that's going to say, it's telling me, hey, start out going southwest on Oregon Drive and then turn right onto Carly Road. So I want the narrative, but I also would like to get the distance, because I'd like to know how far down Oregon Drive am I going before I make this right, or the right-hand turn onto Carly Road, right? So we'll grab the distance. And we could even grab formatted time or the direction name. Again, it's up to you what you want to grab here. And now we know how to do it. So this construct that we have right here, I want the route key. I want the value from the route key. That's legs, element, or index 0, right? The first element of that list, and then the maneuvers. And for each of those little dictionaries that make up the elements in that legs list, I'm going to print the turn, and we're going to say narrative. And then let me make sure I've got that right, because this is where it's going to get a little complicated with all of the different formatting. And so we're going to concatenate that. And there's a lot of parentheses here and a lot of brackets, so I'm just double checking to make sure, because this is something I don't like troubleshooting. All right. And so then we're going to say, let me make sure I got that right, plus, and it's going to be quote equal plus, and then we're going to have another concatenation here. Now remember, if I'm using the distance, I've got to convert that to a string for the turn. And so we'll say distance, and let's make sure that's right, turn, distance, and that should be correct. And then we're going to say, we're going to concatenate that. And then I'll just put in here miles. I think I've got that right. We've got a lot of parentheses here. I'm just looking again at the parentheses to make sure I'm matching everything up. All right, now that should be everything we need. And I'm going to yank that out here, and let's just do this for right now. All right, so again, for every turn in the maneuvers, right? So for every turn that's listed in those maneuvers, for each one of those, print the narrative for that turn, and then print the distance to get to that turn. And all of that information is right here in these little dictionaries that are elements in the JSON array with a key of maneuvers, right? All right, let's run this program and let's give it a test here and let's see what we see. Let's say Python 3 directions.py. Things look good so far. Let's say Santa Rosa, California. And let's go to San Francisco. And let's see if it works. And there it is. And so our program is still running. It's asking me for the next set of directions I'm going to use. And so for my directions, the following values were found. And you can see right here, the total number of miles is going to be 54,172. The amount of fuel is 2.47. And we start out going southeast on B Street toward 3rd Street. And then from 3rd Street, we get ourselves out onto Davis, then onto US 101 down to San Francisco. And this is how you loop through. And let me do this here, right? Let's take a look here. Let me shrink that a little bit. And let's go ahead, pull that back up, and let's see. So, and actually this is going to be, but how do we see the directions we currently have? Let me just grab this, let me grab that URL that we printed out earlier, and let's get the new set of directions here, and let's get down to the legs JSON array, down to the maneuvers that are part of that dictionary, the first element in the legs array. And let's take a look here. So start out going southeast on B Street toward 3rd Street. And so here it is. That's exactly what it printed out. And there's the 0.6 miles. So then let's come down to the next dictionary that's in this list. And it says narrative, turn right onto 3rd Street. And here it is, printed it out. Turn right onto 3rd Street, 0.236 miles, 0.236 miles. And all we did with this for loop is loop through each of those little dictionaries and yank out the information that we wanted. Let's say quit, and then let's go ahead and I want to cat out the program because this is what we have right now. And again, this is where it can get a little tricky with the concatenation, the conversion of the distance from a float to a string, and lots of parentheses, right? So it's good to see an example here because now you could build on this example. If you wanted to pull something else out of each of these little dictionaries that make up the maneuvers list. All right, well, this is going to be a great stopping point. And again, my hope is that you're experimenting with different things that you might see. Maybe you want to pull out the time, the formatted time, and add that in. Maybe you want to add in the direction name, right? And those are all things that you can add in to your program because now you know how to parse that JSON data, how to look at it, evaluate the different objects and the different arrays, and how to pair that with the Python code to manipulate and access and parse the dictionaries that Python's going to see and the lists that Python is going to see. And it's just like working with Python dictionaries and lists. It's absolutely seamless. All right, well, that is going to do it for part 4. We're going to have one more part in this multi-part series. And what we're going to do is we're going to spice things up a little bit by adding some error checking. And we might even add in, for those of you that live across the pond and you're using kilometers and liters instead of miles, I'm going to add in the additional code to print out what it would look like in kilometers and liters. All right, well, that is going to do it for part 4 of this Parsing JSON Data with Python tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.